Billiken fans, message board morons, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button as well as the bell icon down below to get notified whenever a new episode drops. It's season 4 of the Midtown Madness Podcast, and it's brought to you by Two Men and a Garden. Everyone knows that I spend way too much time consuming online content, and I cannot believe the most insane advertisements that come along with some of my favorite shows. None of those subscription boxes, those loot crates, none of that nonsense here. It's Two Men and a Garden salsa. That's all we're about. It's local. It tastes amazing. They've got all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preferences. If you don't eat sugar, they got sugar-free too. You can get all of their products at any local grocery, not all of their products, but you can get their products at any local grocery store. However, you can get all of them at twomenindagarden.com, which if you're particular about your salsa preferences, that's where you want to go first. Follow them on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at Two Men Salsa. Pete, what should we complain about today?
That's why people listen, right, Zach?
Absolutely. They just love to hear Zach Miller whine about something that's going wrong in the athletic department.
What's today's 35-minute rant? Let's find out.
You know what? We don't have one. I think that we're gonna be constructive today, Peter. I think that's our plan.
I think that's the way to be, Zach. I think we have to be fair, right? Like,
yes.
If there are things worth complaining about or pointing out or worrying about, I think that's fair. But when good things happen, I think that's fair too. We got to cover it all.
Absolutely. And I think about 90% of the Champions Center grand opening on Monday the 9th at 4 p.m. Was great. Also, sorry if you heard Sunday Night Football in the background, ladies and gentlemen. I have the headphones in and I forget that there is sound on because the headphones are so nice.
I would never dream of having anything else on while I do this show. I'm locked in, Zach.
You know what? I am that ADHD person, and I need something going on in the background to make sure that I don't. I can focus so much better if something on in the background is like it doesn't even matter. I don't know why. It's insane.
You need a sports bar atmosphere at all times. Like,
yes,
you've got the neon on behind you.
Yes,
you've got a bunch of different screens going.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to bring wings out to you.
By the way,
the whole vibe.
If Humphreys wants to bring me wings, I would not protest.
While we record, you're like, every Sunday evening, Humphreys, knock on my door, deliver some wings. I'll leave it open for you.
Yes, absolutely. The Champions Center grand opening was Monday. Pete, these things, like, it's such a cool thing for, we talked about it. It may not move the needle as well for men's basketball, but it really is really big for the non-revenue sports. And but these events where everybody talks are just the most cringy thing you can watch. And again, it's a lot of forced optimism. I don't even know. Like, Pete, try to break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to enough of these kind of things before to where you more or less know how it's going to go down, right? Like a certain group of people are going to speak. The president, the athletic director, a sample of head coaches, a sample of athletes, a sample of donors. They're all going to have their say, their piece. There's probably going to be an MC. And then they're actually going to open the thing, and then tours will start. We talked about the start time last week, right? It was 4 p.m. I probably would have shown up at 5 and just taken a tour, right? Because I more or less know what's going to be said. I don't need all the speeches. That's just me, I don't need a lot of pomp and circumstance.
Do you remember the old the old videos, like the viral videos that were all about kind of gross out and see how long you could watch them? They were back in like 08, 09, like the 2 girls, 1 cup, the BME Pain Olympics. You remember those? Because that's what these events are like for me. Like, I can't I cannot make it through an entire one. Like I
That's
start a clock and see how long I can last watching it.
well, for one, we've already established that you need multiple screens on while it's going, right? So
Yes. Oh God. Yeah.
you're like, I could have Costello's speech would have been fine if I had like a college lacrosse game on one screen behind him and like NFL
If-
highlights on the other screen. So we've already established that, but number two, like that's about the least flattering comparison you could ever give a public speaker, is that it's like watching
I'm not talking about the public
gross out
speakers
videos.
though. Like
No,
I'm
I
just
know,
talking
I
about
know.
the general, like everything about these are just like, oh my God, stop patting each other on the back.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's dull. I don't know
Yes.
how else to get around it though, right? Like
I'll
you know,
MC. That's how you make it not dull.
you would just get up there and just cut, you would just take the scissors, cut the ribbon and be like, let's check this thing out. Let's go.
That's it. Yes. Let's
We're
party.
good. We all know,
Anybody tap the keg, I'll pump.
we all know who paid for this. We all know who's going to benefit from this. Let's just go.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately that's how it goes. But look, it seemed like a nice event overall. As much as you say it was a little cringe, I honestly didn't really watch it. What I was hoping for, Zach, as because I think as fans are pretty curious about the place, I don't think it's going to be open to the public pretty much ever, right? I think it's going to be like any other student campus building where you're going to need,
It'll be a lot like the men's soccer facility. The locker rooms. I mean, if anybody can walk behind, the soccer locker rooms,
right?
If you walk behind you, there's a door to go in from the backside, as well as the front, and there's clearly key card access. So I'm imagining, and to be honest, like Chaffetz Arena had no security.
Well,
have you ever tried to get in that side door to Chaffetz Arena? It's always open.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never really around that much. I mean, like I always like to, I don't know, walk around college campuses, if I've got time to kill. And so, yeah, I always like when there's like an arena or stadium door unlocked or open or something's going on or whatever. I like that. But this place specifically is more of like a student services kind of building. It's not quite like a student union that's open pretty much to the public. You can get in, and if there's a place to eat or something, or a bookstore. But I think it's a little bit different. It would be more like an academic building, right? Where there's probably going to be a front desk or a key card, or maybe it would just be open certain hours while students are coming in and out. But regardless, as a fan who's like curious about the place, and I know a lot of people are, based on responses we saw on Twitter or the message board or anything, there are people who still kind of aren't quite sure what it is and how it will all work and how it will impact the day-to-day for a lot of the students and athletes that are going to use the buildings or the building. So what I really would have liked would have been a more comprehensive, like, virtual tour, where we could see more of what it actually is. There were photos that are just of like 4 or 5 rooms, right? Like we didn't see much of the building. If they had like a full virtual tour, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
If I could just kind of
like
see
a
what
Coldwell Banker Gundaker 3D house tour from the early 2000s. I love it.
Sure.
Get the nostalgia in there too.
Yes. So like, yeah, I think something like that would be cool. Whatever the equivalent of that is.
My idea was, why not just post tweets, just do an individual tweet for each room, a picture that displays the entire room, or at least the gist of the furniture in the room, and then give us, in a tweet what it is and what it will be used for.
Right.
I think a thread of that would have been perfect, because you don't have to leave Twitter. You don't have to click a link. You don't have to slide through a slideshow. You just scroll down the page. And I think that would have been perfect.
And I think when I say virtual tour, I probably mean something more like a video,
Right.
That's kind of walking us around. But also, like, if you had like a widescreen shot of the different rooms, and like you say, like kind of bullet points, like this is what happened. This is what goes on here. This is what this is for. I think it would give people more of an appreciation of kind of what it is and how it's going to be used, as opposed to we've got this new $20 million building. It's really nice. It's going to benefit student athletes, and that's that. So we got, little glimpses and previews of it, but something more comprehensive would be cool. Otherwise, look, I mean, like, yeah, I'm fine. Like the ceremony, I'm sure was fun, as expected, exactly what everybody would have thought it was. And I've heard nothing but great things about this facility itself. I'm glad that it's basically open for almost all of this current academic year. So now it's a thing we have that's open on campus, right? It's not a thing that we're wondering when it's going to open anymore. So that's it's cool that it's up and running, and hopefully it starts paying dividends, and the current athletes really like it already.
Yeah, I think the one, excuse me, the one kind of adjustment I thought they should have made, and I think I've said this a lot, is I really wish they would have put NIL on there somewhere. So like you look at like the student success suite, there's a couple of other rooms, throw in student success suite and NIL command center or something, like,
Sure.
because if it says it on the wall, it makes it real and tangible in that prospective athlete's mind.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
And someplace, and I think I saw I can't remember what school already had this. I want to say, oh gosh, who was it that opened up something, and they had an NIL suite where it was basically a place where student athletes could set up meetings with prospective, advertisers or whatever you want to call them.
So instead of calling it like the Smith family conference room or whatever, it's actually like give
it a name.
Give it an NIL spin.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. So, but just running down, West Pine Bills, currently called West Pine Big Baller Brand on Twitter. They like to change it up every so often. They gave a little rundown of some of the highlights. They didn't do much, but they did a lot. Chris May begins today's presentation noting how many services the center will provide for SLU athletes, as well as some thank yous to the various campus partners. You get the idea. Fred Pastello, 2 points he made. By the way, how are we shortening the name of the Champion Center? Are we doing OFCC or OCC? We got to figure that one out.
Let's just
leave it to the students. Let's let it happen organically. The essays, So the Champion Center will allow SLU to better serve student athletes. The Champion Center will allow SLU to compete at higher levels. Bernadette McGlade was in attendance, the A10 commissioner. She said that she had never seen anything like it. I don't know if that's a good thing. It's like, it's one of those things where you're like, nobody's doing this. It's either nobody's doing this you can either be innovating, or you can be just going off the path.
Yeah. I was looking into some other stuff related to Xavier versus SLU, as opposed, in terms of how we're doing Billiken Club versus their All for One Fun, and then our NIL collective.
We're going to get into that soon, Pete.
We're going to get into it soon. I'm still doing my homework on that. But while I was doing that, I was looking at their athletics page pretty in depth, and they actually have a champion center, what they call I now I'm already forgetting the name of the family, but it's like the Schmidt family champion center. And it was more of it was a little bit smaller, a little bit lower price tag than ours a few years ago. I think it opened 2 years ago, but it's a little more training oriented. Like it's where the baseball, like batting cages are, and they have a lap pool in there. And it's a little more, strength and conditioning and training for some of the outdoor sports and stuff like that. So it's got, your fair share of meeting rooms and film rooms and stuff like that. But I think those are a little more communal. So similar, but different. And I thought it was pretty interesting that it's also something Family Champions Center. So it's not the only building of its kind. It might be in the A10 though. I mean, like if the A10 commission is saying that, then that's probably the case.
we talked a little bit about how NIL. Oh, did I finish that thought or did I just kind of bail? I did
No,
just
that's
bail.
pretty.
Fred Postello, of course, reminded everyone that SLU is the oldest university west of the Mississippi and the second oldest Jesuit university in the country. It's about the last. Um, Pete, I think one thing that you have Matt Hawk. I think, wait, what's his actual name? Billiken Hawk is his Twitter handle. He said, I think he's just Billiken Hawk because he's Billiken and KU. But he said, at some point, I'd love to see someone from SLU explain what this actually is. I
Yeah.
get in the abstract, but like, what is the inspiration? Who, if anyone, is it modeled after? What's a sales pitch to prospective athletes with it, etc. I said, I just responded, I think the selling point is that it's unprecedented and nobody else is doing this. He said, I mean, I know that's the line, but is it though? I still think some additional clarifying information along the lines of we wanted to do this, but when we did the research, others have only done pieces of it and no one had actually done what we wanted to do. So what do you think this is?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it in the past a little bit, but I think that the idea here is to give all of the different programs kind of their own space. They've got their offices and everything in Chaffetz, but this kind of gives them a place to go, watch game film, have team meetings, whatever. It's also got things like it's got a little market kind of area for
I think there's
athletes.
a full kitchen in there. I think it's actually a cafeteria too.
So there's like a lot more attention given to nutrition and the timing of meals and the type of meals and the availability of different things they're going to need throughout the day. We've had players on here before talking about kind of like what they're doing. And it's that whole element of being a college athlete in 2023 is so different than, when I was on campus. And I wouldn't say that was an afterthought, but it wasn't nearly as overseen or anything like that.
Reiner cafeteria on Mondays or whatever it was.
The cafeteria food was, in hindsight, like almost shocking.
Dude, we had like KFC and Fuse, which was pretty dope, but I probably got a little fat from that one. We had Chick-fil-A in Grand Market.
We had Chick-fil-A
badass
in the student center when I was a freshman, but then
way.
my sophomore and junior years, the whole student union was closed for renovations.
That's right.
So when it reopened, my senior year, there was no Chick-fil-A.
Because
I'm not a Chick-fil-A guy anyway, though. I think
I like Chick-fil-A.
So overrated.
It's delicious. But I mean, they created their own way to do drive-through, for Christ's sake. Like, that's insane enough as it is. Anyway, sorry. But no, that was back when the bookstore was actually where the it was right across from Fuse.
Right. Yeah. Briefly. Right. Yeah. That's where it was when I was there, I guess earlier in college.
Yeah.
My senior year is when that moved. Anyway, so
sorry.
I think the champions, like if I had to say it at a high level, it is to change the day-to-day experience of being a college athlete, right? Like that's what they're trying to change. You're thinking back to the days of like practicing in West Pine Gym and living in Grand Forest and playing most teams off campus. And now they're just trying to centralize everything and then give them more amenities that they've either never had before or that they might have to go somewhere else to get it taken care of. I think it just elevates that experience, and it's really hard for a fan to sort of understand that, right? Or like really intuitively know what that would be. You just kind of have to, it's almost like you had to do a day in the life before and after. And there are things that, they're going to be able to do right next to where they live. And in most cases, right next to where they play and practice and things like that. And I think that is a big game changer for most of the athletes on campus. I think it's a big deal. I don't think it's, and we've said this before, as big a deal for men's and women's basketball, because a lot of what they have is right there already, in Chaffetz. But I think this really elevates things for all the other programs.
And I think it will move So if you look at Chaffetz right now, if you take away the Champion Center, to kind of put this in perspective for anyone other than men's basketball and soccer, or sorry, basketball and soccer, they had offices in the top level of the offices alongside the practice gym. So along the baseline of the practice gym is where the offices are. It's a straight line down. There's two levels, okay? There's there's basketball. I think men's basketball and soccer at the top. Volleyball is at the top. I don't know. Anyway, it will basically allow for things to just kind of move uphill, right? So men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer will move to the Champion Center. And then this will allow for offices for volleyball to increase the size. They will probably volleyball take over some offices, baseball take over some offices, softball take over some offices, and so on and so forth, is what I'm assuming will happen.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, it changes things for, visually when you bring recruits on campus.
Yeah.
Again, it's about time as well. You're maximizing your players, your student athletes' time, whether it be, for practice and whatnot, and getting them, fed quickly after practice. Not that the anabolic window actually is a thing, just for everybody out there. But like it's maximizing efficiency, really, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is. And just to kind of like, I'm going through the slideshow right now. After the lobby, they show you the recruiting room. So there you've got, place to meet with recruits, their families, everything like that. It's set up really well. Floor to ceiling windows, screens, just like it's nice to have a dedicated place to go, right? To take them. Basketball operations center, performance and nutrition center. We already talked about the student success suite. And there's the technology suite. Let's see here. And yeah, that's okay. So that's what they've got in this main photo gallery here. The fueling station is what they call the little place where you can kind of grab and go.
Snack bar, grab a Cliff Bar, Gatorade,
Exactly.
Zero. Yeah.
They've got team dining suites, which is nice to have right there, because sometimes it's kind of like there's not always that place, right, where you could take your whole team, everyone involved with your program, and go to a single place for a meal. You wind up having to use, suites within the student union, student center, whatever it's called, or maybe like Lorenzini's or spaces like that you're trying to get. But to have that here all the time is just really nice. So yeah, I mean, there's a few other rooms throughout there that what they've called the sanctuary space. There's some sports psychology offices in there, academic support offices, and then more of the head coaches' offices are going to be in there. I think if I'm not mistaken, the men's and women's basketball offices are moving into this building, right?
Right. And soccer.
And okay, so you've got that too. It's new office space for all the coaches, which should be an upgrade over what they've got. So yeah, you could just see it's a big deal. It's not the kind of thing that's a big deal to us fans, as we've remarked before, even way back when this was announced for the first time. It just isn't. It doesn't change the fan experience, but you would like to think that it's going to help improve morale, performance, all of the things that they need on a day-to-day basis to compete at the highest level. I think that's important, and it's indirect for us, but I think it's good to have that for all of these different programs. It's just a big upgrade for everybody. And, we're talking about between students and staff, you're talking about 400 or 500 people, right? That are impacted by this. So that's a big deal.
I think Box and One put it very succinctly on Billikens.com. He said table stakes.
If we want to compete with Big East schools, this is the cost of doing business. And now we have to up the NIL bag, because that's the other piece of it.
That we do. And the Billiken Victory Fund lives.
We have proof of life, Zach.
Yes, it's like young Frankenstein, Pete. It's alive.
It's alive.
They did not tweet from May 18th until October 11th.
Mm-mm.
Man, I mean, I apparently there has been fundraising behind the scenes according to a Billikens.com poster.
Right.
Um, but like we talked about this last week, this isn't something that can just stay behind the scenes. Like, say it with your chest.
Yeah, we got into this last week, right? It just
Yeah.
you're a public facing, ostensibly fundraising organization. You gotta keep being active. You got to be vocal, and you have to project strength and vision and solidarity and all of those things that we talked about last week as well. So that's a 5-month break right there, Zach.
Yeah, I think am I imagining things, or did Troy at some point say we have all the funds we need for this season? That seems
I think that was very early on. That was early
okay.
on. Like he was like, up front. It seems like they had committed, like some people behind the scenes committed to helping get it off the ground.
Okay.
And he said, I think we've got the funds we need for this cycle, but then we need to keep funding it for the future.
Yeah.
And I think as it turned out, it in the end, I'm not sure they really did. I don't think they knew what the ante was for that first cycle.
We're a lot of gambling metaphors today. A lot of card
Yeah.
table metaphors.
I don't think a lot of people knew how much other schools would be throwing.
I don't think any schools knew how much other schools were going to be, but and that's fair. That's totally fair. But they have released details on an exclusive tip-off event. It'll be 6 p.m. on Tuesday, October 17th at Chaffetz Arena. It's going to be a private practice with men's basketball, cocktails and appetizers to follow. It looks like 50 people is the cap, which again, if you're looking for an exclusive event, that is much better than a private practice of 700 maybe people with like 100 kids.
This I gotta say, this event is exactly the kind of thing that I would do. That price level, the nature of the event, I would be 100% in. I just happen to live 350 miles away, so I can't be there on a Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. But we were just on their case for being a little too quiet publicly.
Absolutely.
But this is right in the wheelhouse of what I personally, as a 40-year-old professional, not the kind of person who's got a trust fund to blow supporting my favorite program and not independently wealthy person, but also able to kick in a little for something that I find interesting like this. This is exactly what I would be in for. Like things like this a few times a year, I'd always be in. So I think this is cool. I think it's a great event. I know other people have said the same, whether or not they're going to be able to make it, but I think it's great. I think they should have if they could have given a little more notice, that would have been awesome. Yeah. But if they still think they can get to that capacity, only notifying people a week or two out, that's fine too. Makes sense to me.
We're going to get into because there was an announcement for an open practice eventually, which came after the announcement for this tip-off event. And I think if they could have orchestrated with the athletic department for the announcement of the open practice and then said, hey, skip the madhouse that is the open practice and come to this exclusive tip-off event. Like that makes that would have been so much easier, I think, on some of the fans. And there was some pushback that was like, when they first announced this event, like, yo, you're not going to do an open practice. So you're going to hold us hostage for $250. Like the price point is right. Like you mentioned, because you're not pricing anybody out that would have paid $100, and nobody who paid $250 there's not a whole bunch of people that are going to pay $100, right? Like that price point is it's right. Like you said, it's just right.
And at the same time, I don't think a lot of people would pay $500 for it.
Right. Oh God, no.
Yeah. So I think the price point is right, but I don't disagree with you, because some of the initial reaction, especially from people who have been feeling a little more negative than usual toward the program in the off season, was like, whoa, there's no midnight madness. There's no like big tip off event. There's no open practice, but I can do this if I pay, so there was a little bit of that kind of grumbling. But you're right. I think had they already known there's an open practice, but like this is a different thing and a different kind of level, and maybe it's a little bit exclusive. And I think that reaction would have been different. But I'm glad, regardless, I'm glad they came along and still announced the open practice
Yes.
on October 20th at 4 to 6. So 3 days after the exclusive tip-off event.
Which is funny, and we'll get into that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to, I mean, we can, if you've got more to say on the Billiken Victory Fund, I was just going to say, you thought it was a pretty well-written invitation to the open practice.
Well, yeah, but I just want to say, like, on the Billiken Victory Fund, like, I would like I have talked about this for how long have you and I been doing podcast business? Not necessarily this podcast, but even going back to the house that Rick built.
Oh yeah.
Like,
okay. So
like how
easily 4 years or more.
Yeah. How often have I said I would love to do looking back at like the Kyle Cassidy interview we did where we did it from my apartment in Soulard. Like I love the idea of live like round table, a couple guests. Like I love the idea of doing one of those.
Yeah.
And look, Troy, let's collaborate here. I'll MC. Like it'll be fun. It'll be informal in a lot of ways. We don't need to get the heavy hitters, the rammers. Like let's be real, down to earth. Let's tell some stories. But let's do some sort of event at Humphreys, at Fieldhouse, maybe pregame. Let's get the guys from your Spoon Hour team. Let's get a couple of those dudes together. I'll facilitate. You guys just shoot the shit and tell some funny stories. PG-13 to R, like parents strong. No, seriously, parents strongly cautioned, but it could get weird. Like, if you're comfortable bringing that's what I'm saying. Like, let's do something a little edgier. Let's do, a cover at the door and a cash bar. Let's do something fun. Let's collaborate. Let's raise some money.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen, Troy. I just wanted to put that out there on tape because I would love to MC or, moderate, not moderate. I don't say moderate because I can't moderate anything. But like, let's do something.
Well, one of the other points that I think you and I have kind of made recently is that like we could just, if somebody from the BVF wants to come on the show and just talk about it a little bit more, that'd be great. I think we do have listeners out there who are Billiken Victory Fund curious, but maybe not like fully committed, right? Like, see, like I think if they had a little more perspective on what it is, how it works, what's their mission, what's their philosophy, what are their successes so far? And look, I know they can't get into like numbers and names and things like that, but
yeah.
How do they feel that they've been successful? Where have they come up short? Where do they see this in the next 12, 18, 24 months? Let's learn about it a little bit. And I think once that barrier is down for people, once they're a little more comfortable with the idea of it, I think they'll see some more smaller time donors start to get into it.
Hell yeah. I think,
you and I are always here to platform and to kick ideas around.
I mean, Troy, I don't play gotcha, man. You've been on my show. We've done what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, Troy? Like, let's roll. But no,
Troy or anybody else.
Yeah, anybody. But I also think, Troy, I think West Pine Bills tweeted at Billiken Victory Fund, like, yo, this idea pregame. They talked about pregame parties, and Troy said, yo, send me over any ideas you might have. It's like, Troy, you guys can come on the show and talk to the rabid Billiken fans. We are all the most mentally ill of Billiken fans here. Like, we think about this all the time. Like, you're talking directly to a pool of probably 200 to 250 people that just think about Billiken basketball and ideas on how to make things better.
Yeah.
Like, just literally come on here and be like, all right, everybody send me ideas. So what I want you all to do, if you're still listening at this point, tweet at Troy Robertson, tweet at the Billiken Victory Fund, send them ideas. Actually, no, tell them you want me to moderate or MC an event with the Spoon Hour guys. Tell them that, because I want to do that. I want to help raise some money for the Billiken Victory Fund.
Sounds fun. Let's see where it goes.
We talked about that open practice.
Yeah.
It's October 20th from 4 to 6. God, it's at 4 to 6? They're killing me, man.
Get your work done early. Get your work done early.
But I did really like the way this was written. Go ahead and read that for me.
Yeah, so this was an email that went out.
Except for one thing I did find here that I have a problem with, but we'll get to it.
Okay. All right. Billiken Nation, thank you for your continued support of SLU basketball. You are invited to an open practice to preview the 2023-24 SLU men's basketball team. We hope you can join us on Friday, October 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. in the pavilion at Chaffetz Arena. This is your first opportunity to see the Billikens in action. We are excited about a strong core of returning players, such as academic All-American and sharpshooter Gibson Jimerson, the high-flying duo of TJ Hargrove and Sincere Parker, as well as exciting local talent in Larry Hughes Jr. and Kellen Thames. Additionally, we have an exceptional group of newcomers in Sion Medley, Bruce Zhang, Steph Van Bussel, George A. Churchich, Abubakar Makasa, Tim Dalger, Brad Ezawiro, and Mike Meadows. We look forward to seeing you on October 20th. Thank you, and go Billikens.
Did you spot the issue with in the wording here? This will not be the first opportunity to see the Billikens in action, given that it's on October 20th, 3 days after the Billiken Victory Fund.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's not what I would have caught. But
yeah, no. I'm nitpicking.
All but a small group of people. Yeah, that this is true. This is more or less.
Yes.
True.
It's really well written and actually really like this is hype. Like it's not. It's hyped, but it's also not overextending yourself. It's not being ridiculous. Like some of the stuff you see like on Twitter, it can be a little bit out there, but like this, I think this is well written and actually gets me excited for what they for overachieving.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, this is I like this a lot. I like that they're doing the open practice. I do wish it would have come before, the Billiken Victory Fund, but I guess it is 3 days later. So,
Did we cause the issue here? Was the announcement going to come later for the Billiken Victory Fund? But we
nudged them too soon.
We just kept annoying them until they're like, fine.
That may be giving us too much credit, but I don't know.
No, we're annoying. That's not giving us credit. That's some good news. Steph Van Bussel, SVB, which I will probably be going with SVB because I cannot read. Back to full contact drills in practice. So that's good news.
It's good news. It's always good to see somebody who's been in a walking boot back in full contact drills. But unfortunately,
it always comes with bad.
It's always one step forward, one step back. And it sounds like we just got word today, right? That Big Bruce is going to be out until mid-November with an injury. It's an undisclosed injury. We don't know the nature of it, but Travis Ford was on Sports on a Sunday morning and let us know the bad news there, Zach. And this is for a guy who could be the starting center if we don't get that waiver for Brad. This is a setback.
Sports on a Sunday morning is like the one show that I associate with KMOX besides the Garden Show. Do you remember the Garden Show?
I do actually.
I freaking love that show. I don't know why. I don't even like plants, but I love that show.
We've got one of those in Cincinnati too on the big AM radio station here.
Anyway, undisclosed injury. He also indicated on Sports on a Sunday morning that TJ would get some run at the 5 as a small 5. I've been saying I'd like to see him as a stretch big for a while now. Pack on some pounds there, TJ, and You don't
Yeah,
like that idea.
I don't. I mean, if you're running him at the 5, to me, that just says Steph and Magasa are not ready. Either one or both of them are just not ready for big minutes. To me, it's like when we used TJ, I believe that was against Auburn when we used him to match up with a particularly difficult big man matchup there, and it kind of worked for that game. It threw him off a little bit, but to me, if you're doing that more than like as a matchup proposition, if you're actually doing that with some regularity, that's a problem. I'm all for like a gimmick defense to to win one game, to do it in one game, but like putting a 6'4" guy out there at the 5, that's like a gimmick defense.
You're gonna love my next point here.
What's your next point then?
Well, as Gremio on Billikens.com noted, he heard Travis state a week ago, and I think Travis also said it on Sports on a Sunday Morning, that quote, and he's paraphrasing apparently, we are going to press, and press some more, press and trap almost every time the opponent has the ball, and TJ will play a large amount of time at the 5. Will be a heck of a matchup problem for opponents. Our strengths are at the 1, 2, and 3, and Meadows is an amazing player. Will be the primary one. Are you finally in year 8? Are you believing that we will finally see a pressing Travis Ford team?
We were screaming for a press a lot last season, and we saw it a little bit. We saw it work a couple times. But they never stick with it, right? And we heard before last season we're going to shoot a lot more threes, and we really didn't.
The full Gradell.
We've heard it before other seasons. We're going to play faster, and we really don't. Even if it goes for a little bit, it doesn't stick, kind of thing. I just kind of believe that by now, Ford is who he is in terms of like his style and the structure and it's like Majerus with a zone. He's not going to start running a zone. It's just not what he knows. It's not what he's comfortable with. I just don't see this being a pressing team. Maybe, right? Like maybe we don't have a choice, but we kind of thought that at times last season, due to personnel limitations. So I'll believe it when I see it. Is kind of where I'm at with this.
You mentioned their personnel limitations, and that leads me perfectly to my next point here. We finally got some social media looks at the 2023-24 St. Louis Billikens. They are not in witness protection program. Per a source within the athletic department, they are not in hiding from Henry Hill or whatever. We got a get to know video, and it was Tim Dalger.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And the timing was great, Zach. Like this is exactly the kind of thing we described, like we would like to see. And then a few days later, it comes out.
Weird.
Great timing. But I thought it was good. He seems like a fun guy, a nice guy. And I never really heard him speak that much before that, or didn't really know a whole lot about him. Like there's what's in his bio on, Tulsa's I guess athletics website, right? Like the stuff that I could have figured out about him before, kind of knew his background a little bit, where he's from, stuff like that. But yeah, just to kind of get a feel for somebody's personality and stuff like that. It was good. And I hope they do more of these, because we have so many new players, like we said last week. You include the walk-ons, and we've got double-digit new players on this roster. So I would love to see something for all of them.
Yeah, I think we brought up last week. I think it's obvious that they were understaffed and put all their man hours into the Champions Center.
Sure.
It's a major SLU event, and you do have all those other student athletes and all those other coaches, but you can't do things at the expense of your biggest sport, your biggest marketing project of the year. As
this show goes out on Monday morning, we are 8 days away from seeing them in game action. That's October 24th that we are going to see that first exhibition game. And I know it's a couple more weeks until we have like true game action, but still, I mean, that's you're getting suited up and playing in front of your fans in 8 days from now. And it just feels like they're spread pretty thin over there.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more hands on deck to be covering all of this.
Yeah, I think one of the things that bothers me is the lack of like a plan. It seems like they do a lot of cool things one off, but
Yeah.
they never
Yeah.
like continue them, and they
Like-
never follow. Like there's no, like Jordan Neisler's amazing at what he does,
Yeah.
but he's a creative. Like you need something behind him that is not above him, just behind him. You first of all, you need another. You need one more Jordan Neisler on staff. You really do. But I would love to see somebody behind Jordan that says, okay, that works with Jordan collaboratively and says,
Sure.
okay, what do you want to do? And then how can we structure that so that you say, okay, we did Dalger today. We're going to do what's the next date you can get Bruce Zhang out?
Yeah.
What's the next day you can, and then how many days again until you can get Mike Meadows out? You know,
We are at the point now, like there are more players that have not been introed like that than there are days until that first exhibition game. So you could do one every couple days before the first regular season game, but if you wanted to have them all introed, you would have to start doing one a day now.
Yeah.
Technically two on one of those days, but yeah, the point is, you're right. Like one more person would make a world of difference probably, and we're getting close to the season, and it's just, yeah, it's been a trickle. But look, to their credit, we really complained that we hadn't heard much of anything as a week ago when we were recording, and there's been some good stuff in the last week. So
yes,
tip of the cap to them. I'm glad that stuff's finally starting to come through.
You got to put your employees in the spot where they can do their job and do what they're good at, and give them the freedom to do it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the major things that we saw this past week that showcased the understaffed nature is this week in Billiken athletics graphic. Man, I feel bad for whoever got that put on them that had to do that. But like that again, they've been putting out an amazing This Week in Billiken athletics graphic for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
Is great. It's a calendar. It's a week's calendar. It's got everything. And then they just it's literally, it's an idiot proof. What do you call it? Template. Yeah. That's what you do. Like that's all adulthood is, people, is idiot proof templates. Has nobody else figured this out yet? I'm sure everybody figures this out, right? Copy and paste is all as all the adult jobs are anymore. But yeah, it's a beautiful template. It's a week, right? And so they just grab another one. Like they just made a completely different template. Like right. I just don't, and I'm not going to belabor the point. We went into it way enough on Twitter. It was bad. You can find our tweet out there. I'm not going to go in on everything that was wrong with it, but like you got to make sure that everyone that's going to do these graphics has the access to that template. It's right. not, and you avoid this whole situation. So you avoid having people in your mentions, clowning on something. And I don't know. It's just it's that minutia that I wish Billiken athletics did a little bit better. Right. We got computer rankings.
We did.
Do you care about the computer rankings, given the fact that we have no idea what we're going to see on the floor for the Billikens?
So we get a lot of preseason rankings that are like coming from content dudes, right? Like people just trying to put out as much
big game boomer,
whatever niche they're in, as much content as possible. Top 10 this, top 10 that every day coming into the season, top 10 second year coaches. And it's just, it's stupid. So much of that stuff is just stupid. And it's clearly, it's geared toward the fans of the biggest programs, right? Like their incentive structure on social media is such that they want the most engagement possible. And so all things being equal, that means you would rather reach out to a Big Ten fan base than an A10 fan base. And so somebody like Gibson Jimerson isn't going to be on the best shooters list. In favor, if you're deciding between two guys, you're going to pick a guy from Nebraska instead of a guy from St. Louis, just because that's how those things work. They're dumb. Ken Pom, I've always liked the work that he does, and this was today was the, I guess, Sunday, yesterday, as you listen to this, was the annual release of his preseason rankings, and then the model will change throughout the year as the games actually happen. Now, Zach, it's not great news for SLU. Some people say it's better than what they expected, but come on now, I'm new to this language. So I don't know, when you see this number that the Ken Pom rankings have for us in the preseason, I don't know how it makes you feel, but seeing a 115 next to SLU was not heartwarming for me. I know that much.
Yeah, no, not fun. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But again, I mean, this team that we're about to throw on the court, I'd have no expectations out of either.
No, and I've said that before too. Like I'm at the point where like a lot of people are really, really, really down. I'm not really in that set at all. And then there are other people.
I just don't think there's any way that we bring in players that are Jim Crews bad. Like a team, I don't think we don't have a team full of Jim Crews bad. You know what I mean?
No, but I really am at the point where I just want to watch him play and enjoy it. I'm last year had the burden of expectations weighing on all of us so heavily, and it didn't pan out. And this year, almost completely new roster. And I'm not worried about it. Yeah. If this is where they wind up, this is where they wind up, and I'll ride the highs and lows of the season. But basically, the preseason rankings have us at 115th overall. That would put us at 7th in the A10, and our conference projected record would be 9-9, and implying an overall record of 18-11. But that record does only include Wyoming at the Myrtle Beach Invitational. They don't have the subsequent rounds in there. They just don't know the opponents yet. But based on the rankings, at least one of those would be a loss, because he would probably have Charleston beating Vermont, and Charleston's like 97. Vermont is like 135 or something like that. So SLU's kind of in between them. And then, there's 4 teams on the other side of the bracket, so you just don't know who that would be. So this would put SLU at either, 19-12 or 18-13. And then, subtract one of those wins, because it would be coming against a lower division opponent in Lincoln University. So honestly, 9-2 in the known non-conference games, Zach, is not bad to me, because those only losses are Drake and NC State. And where it gets me is 500 in the A10, right? Because
that ain't good.
If you look at his rankings overall, he's got Dayton, Bonaventure, and Loyola finishing at the top with a 12-6 record. Dayton's the top ranked A10 team, 69th overall. And nice. I know you're going to say nice, but what's not nice is that implies that this is a one bid league. Whoever wins the conference tournament is it based on his expectations. Again, this is a computer model from Ken Pom, who I like and trust in all of those things, but they play the games for a reason. You never know who's going to play better than expected, worse than expected. There is room for the A10 to be better, certainly, but this is a fairly gloomy prediction for the league. And if we go 500 in a league that's this down, that's where I would be disappointed. If we do what he expects in the non-conference, I'm 100% fine with it, actually.
And everybody, don't forget that nobody beats the Wiz on Billikens.com either.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to computer modeling.
Yeah.
I still don't know what the hell he's running over there, but
he winds up more accurate than Vegas though. Yeah. For SLU games, which has always impressed me.
Pete, I gotta ask you. You mentioned the weight of expectations, and I think how much it like. Going into that season, I talked a lot about what that team could mean for us specifically. And I'm wondering if that bothered you as much as it did me, thinking about what got left on the table, and selfishly, of course, because what does it matter, right? We're just
Yeah.
a couple of dudes talking. But like when you go in and you look at what it did for Sully
Yeah.
and the Dayton podcast to go to shoot up to what they were number one at one point that season,
Yeah.
or
Something like
they
that.
were hot. They were looking at a 1 seed maybe. I mean, Scott Van Pelt was on the show.
I think
Like,
I think they were number 2. I don't think they were ever number 1, but I think they were number 2, and they would have been a 1 seed in the
yes,
tournament. Yeah.
but again, they have not made the tournament.
Right.
Um,
Doesn't
but
matter.
I'm wondering if that bothered you as well.
It did. You've probably thought about that aspect more than I have, about like a really big season last year would have meant a much bigger following for us and bigger
Yes.
numbers. And it was interesting. You mentioned Sully, and this week he just announced that he was going to be, signing off, not doing a show anymore. But he said he had at least 1,000 listeners for every show. And that
is a big like emotional kick.
Yeah. And that's a big number. That's a bigger number than I think people realize for podcasts, because people are going to be thinking about like, Joe Rogan or Barstool, like the biggest podcasts is always what you get compared to, or always what you think of. And that's just not realistic. Podcasts, you're really measuring in the hundreds or low thousands, for when you're thinking about that, like top quarter of what they're doing. Most podcasts are listened to very, very few people. Right. And we are endlessly grateful for every single listener, no doubt. But yeah, when you see him say he's got 1,000 for all of them, it's kind of like, oh man, yeah, we have kind of missed out. We haven't gotten that yet, but in due time, Zach, like eventually we'll catch that lightning in a bottle kind of season. And even if this isn't it, hopefully Slew's time is coming, and we'll benefit from that. But yeah, I would venture a bet that you've probably thought about that a little more than I have.
Yeah, because I'm the one that looks at the numbers.
Yeah.
Like I haven't. Like, to be honest, I haven't looked at numbers in like since last season. At mid-season I stopped. I can't, like, it was just too frustrating. And what was happening is I'd look at the rankings and then I would go drown my sorrows in 2 Men in a Garden salsa.
That's the most jarring transition I've ever heard out of you. Speaking of jars, Zach, since we're into the ad read now, here's what's left of my bread and butter kickers, pickles. This is an empty jar. It was full last week when I recorded that goofy unboxing thing that I did. But one thing I noticed, Zach, we talked about the Missouri grown stamp that's on the label and that's on the side of the box that it came in and everything. I look at the ingredients here: cucumber water, white vinegar, sugar, yellow onions, jalapenos, mustard seed, celery seed, salt, and turmeric. And that's it. I've cooked with all of those ingredients many times. I can pronounce. I'm familiar with all of them. I can pronounce all of them. If you grab grocery store aisle pickles, you don't know all of those words. You don't know what all of those ingredients are. You can't cook with all of them. You don't know what they do. I looked at their salsa, Zach. Organic tomatoes, yellow onion, white vinegar, tomato paste, bell pepper, jalapeno, sugar, cilantro, garlic, salt, and cumin. And then, like you said, they've also got the one with no sugar added as well. And that's just on this medium cantina style salsa right here that I haven't opened yet. And I love that. Like, all things being equal, if I've got 2 jars of salsa and I'm looking at them, like the one that has the fresh, natural,
Formaldehyde,
good, straight up ingredients, that's the one I'm going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, the price on grocery store salsas has gone way up lately, and you're not really paying much of a premium at all for this stuff anymore. It's Missouri grown, Missouri made in St. Louis. They're right on the label. It's great. And they've got your best buy date on the bottom. These aren't going to last years and years and years because they're not made to, and that's fine. And trust me, once you open a jar of them, you don't need it to last years. It's probably not going to last more than a couple days, depending on your ability to regulate yourself. So 2 Men in a Garden salsa, I trust them. I trust what's in it. It's not just me anymore either. I've got kids and I like to feed them the best stuff possible too. twomeningarden.com, and check out all your local grocers if you're in St. Louis as well for their stuff.
Um, Fantastic. I love that. I mean, I have a terrible diet, but I get that. I do get the ingredients,
Yeah. Yeah,
men's
you can't do it all the time, but
no,
when you can, go for it.
yes. Men's soccer. Uh, well, this week there was some good news in the rankings, but we're going to get to some not so great news here. RPI is 20, same as last week. Coaches poll 25th. They were not ranked last week. Top Drawer Soccer 21st. College Soccer News not ranked. 31 based on the also receiving votes. They played Central Arkansas to a 3-1 win in the midweek, Peter.
Yeah, it was a fun one too, Zach. That 11th minute goal was just where we've got to get started. Central Arkansas was unable to clear a corner kick, and Christian Buendia settled it off his chest, let it bounce, I think, twice, and he blasted an absolute stonker off that second bounce.
I've never heard that word before. I've never heard that description of the goal.
I stole it from Davo on Men in Blazers. I'm sorry,
okay.
I was still thinking two men. I almost said two men in a blazer, but yeah, Men in Blazers. He's used the word stonker before.
2 Men in a Blazer is a whole nother podcast.
That's that harkens back to those gross out videos of the mid aughts that you were referring to. This made it to number 5 on the Sports Center top 10, and it was, I mean, before that happened, it was like, this has to be the goal of the season, right? It was beautiful.
Yeah. A second beautiful goal. All the goals in this game were fantastic. Even the Central Arkansas goal was really nice.
Yeah.
But in the 14th minute, CJ Capola angled in a ball off his chest on a sharp cross from Seth Anderson. I thought this was the best of the bunch, and I was talking with Jack Micah at the women's game, and I said I really thought this goal from start to finish was the best goal of the game. And he was like, yeah, man, as far as team play goes, I thought that goal was, tic-tac-toe and in the back of the net.
In terms of like team setup, yeah, absolutely. Individual achievement,
yes.
I think it was McDermott who said that Buendia's goal was a goal in any league in the world. Like, it was that good a goal.
That is quintessential Bill McDermott.
It is.
That's a goal on any field in the world.
Yeah,
I think he used that. I think he used a version of that line at the Champions Center when he talked about the field over at Herman Stadium. It is world. You could host a World Cup game on that field right now.
On the pitch. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But this one was great. You're right. I mean, it was the build up to it. And then, how many goals do you actually see off a chest? It's the last thing that touches it. It just shows you like that pass was really zinged in there, and he angled just right. He had enough force on it. He hit it off his chest, not like he was unsure of what he was doing either. Like he knew where the ball was and had a really good sense of his spacing and positioning. Really impressive pass and finish there. But Central Arkansas got one back in the 53rd minute. Pietro Fontana got a nice long ball from Soma Ichikawa and chipped it over Jeremy Abinell to get one back. As you probably noticed by those names there, Central Arkansas's roster has a very, very international flavor to it. They've got players from all over the world. I couldn't believe where they were drawing from.
69th minute. Nice. Matthew Roble scores from a Kevin Commodi feed on a give and go. Really nice goal here as well.
It was, and really wide angles too. This wasn't like a tight give and go. They were on opposite sides of kind of the box, and using really wide angles, but confidently putting the ball through there. And I thought this one was nice too. You're right. All 3 of these goals added up to a pretty impressive performance.
I think a play that didn't make the score sheet necessarily, but certainly could have fit in on that ESPN top 10 list. I don't know, ahead of the goal or after the goal, but with a 3-1 lead and under 20 to play, Galen Flynn the St. Bonaventure transfer had the best save by a defender. I'm sorry. This is the second time this season
Yeah.
that a Billiken player has, I don't even remember if it was Galen Flynn both times, but this is the second time that a Billiken player has gone full extension karate kick and saved a ball that certainly has made it to the goal line.
Right.
And just cleared it right off the line. Kept it in play. Great job by the camera crew to get us a good angle.
Good angle.
I don't think it was it definitely, unfortunately, it wasn't Ismail on the camera because they showed a video of him rocking out during halftime.
No.
Yeah, so he wasn't on the camera for this one.
No, I don't know who it was, but you really got a good sense of how close this was. This wasn't a defender who was just kind of in the right spot and stuck his leg out and stopped it from going, which is still a great play. He was to like, if you didn't see this, his head and shoulders were facing the back of the net, right?
Yes.
So his foot, his outstretched foot, and I mean outstretched and high up, like just above waist level. This ball had to be 4 feet in the air or so.
There's not a lot of angle for him to get this out of the net. That's the point.
No, yeah, I mean his leg is perpendicular with the crossbar, right? So he has no margin for error, and he goes full karate kick, full matrix.
It easily
down
could have
time.
Gone right up to the roof of the net. He easily could have kicked this right into the roof of the net.
You're right. And no one would have faulted him, right? Because he got a miraculous foot on it. But to keep it out of there, and this changes, by the way, the whole tenor of the game too, because they would have had close to 20 minutes left, from when this happened. I don't remember exactly what minute it was, but we're talking like 18, 19 minutes left in the game. And if they're down 1, it's a completely different ball game from there.
Now I'm remembering the Roble goal. It was on a counterattack. Wasn't it? It was like he played it out wide and then Roble kept going. And I mean, it was a curling ball and Roble beat his man. Yeah. Yeah. That was
like a really long wide.
It was very much the type of goal you would see in, high level professional soccer.
Sure.
On a counterattack. You see that a lot in the Premier League. I feel like that goal is scored a lot on counterattacks. The stats in this one, Billiken's had 13 shots to Central Arkansas's 9. Billiken's 9, Bears 3 shots on goal. Corners were 5-1 Billiken's. Fouls were 10-2 Central Arkansas. This was the first time that SLU had scored 3 goals this season, Pete.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Especially given that going into this week, the women were averaging 3 goals a game. And just kind of, there's more than one way to be a winning program.
A tough one, though, on Saturday, the 14th, Pete. This one, really, I think I mentioned, I texted you at one point. He said, get out of Dodge here. Just get out of Chicago with 1 point. Unfortunately, they failed to do it. 3-1 loss at Loyola on Saturday, the 14th. The scoring got opened early with an Oscar Dueso goal in the 18th minute.
This was a wind game, right,
Yes.
Zach? I mean, we saw one of these SLU last season or the season before.
That was insane. Oh, God.
Where we literally saw a throw-in. Was it SIUE too?
No.
It was a weeknight game. It was
an East Coast A10 team. I want to say
St. Joe's.
I want to say it was St. Joe's.
Yeah, somebody wearing maroon or black.
Yes.
Anyway,
because
I remember a throw-in, literally getting caught up in the air and boomeranging behind the player who threw it in.
He threw it up the line. I was standing on the press box side, and I was standing at the McDonnell Douglas Hall end.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch it, and he's throwing it away from me up the field, and I watch him throw it, and the ball never crossed the line.
Yeah.
It never crossed the line. It just went sideways.
It's wild. And this game, it kind of had the same vibe, right? Because the wind was blowing as we're watching. right to left, basically. So the direction that Loyola was going, and I'm not completely sure of which direction our field is oriented, but for our purposes, it was going in Loyola's direction, and that really played to their favor. It seemed like Oscar Dueso got them on the board in the 18th minute, and then it was 2-0 in the 30th minute. Peter Janjic.
Yeah, I was going to go with Janic.
Yeah, Janic. Okay, something like that. He made it 2-0. 30 minutes in, and it could have been worse. With this wind advantage, they wound up out shooting SLU 10-0 with 4 of those shots on goal in the first half.
And they had a goal waved off earlier than that Dueso goal for a foul. I believe it was a Loyola player pushed Leatherman from behind before heading the ball. And then, it was a shooting gallery early from Loyola. And in the 50th minute, though, like you said, 10 of those, they outshot the Billikens 10-0 in that first half. The Billikens gave it back a little bit in that second half, but not as well as Loyola gave it.
Less than 5 minutes in, you've got Christian Buendia from Tanner Anderson. So now you're thinking, Zach, okay, it's the 50th minute, and now it's like, okay, it's our turn, right? Here's that directional advantage. I coach my son's team. The field we play on it's like dramatically tilted. Like it's a city field that's down close to the river in Cincinnati. And if you were to stand at one end and if you could draw a perfect plane to the other side, it's like it's 4, 5, 6 feet difference from one end to the other. And this is not like a full size field either, right? They play 6-on-6. It's a smaller field. And it's a big advantage when you're going downhill on that field. And I felt like that's exactly what I was watching in this game with the wind factor. The problem is after this first goal, SLU just couldn't get anything else going.
No. Well, they did really pressure well on Loyola, I thought, in that second half. They even had they had a golden opportunity to tie the game on. Maybe like we talked about how pretty the goals were in that UCA game.
Yeah.
This might have been the most brilliant teamwork goal if they had put it away. It was unbelievable. And I don't remember who kind of whiffed on it or kind of duffed it off to the left, but they just did not get it on goal, but it was there for the taking. And I do think there was a wind advantage, but you have to do better. I think, not to make excuses, because certainly you don't want to go in and get punked by Loyola when you just entered the top 25. But you look at the wind and then you add in turf. It's a team that does not play on turf.
Yep.
So it's faster already just from the turf, and the wind is pushing that ball. Like, I see how SLU could drop this game, but I felt like, you gotta be better than that in this one. And of course, in the 90th minute, Loyola got one more with about 10 seconds to play. Abinell really did make a fine play on this one to break up a counterattack. Was it? I don't remember. Was it Mason Hart or Abinell? I don't know. But the Billiken goalkeeper, whoever it was in goal, came all the way out past the midline to break up a counterattack as we're pushing to equalize. And of course, Loyola got a friendly bounce, and that was it. So
yeah, it was Mason Hart in this one.
Yeah, it was a great play by him originally, but the ball just did not go where it needed to go off his foot. The shots were 14-6 Loyola, shots on goal 5-1 Loyola. Billiken had 5 corners to Loyola's 4. I think you mentioned that every time you looked up in this game that the ball was there was a goal kick.
Yeah, every time.
Every time.
A goal kick coming from the end where the wind was blowing, right?
Yes.
So a goal kick into the wind, basically.
Yes. Corners 5-4. Billiken's fouls were 10-10. They were even. This loss snapped SLU's 7-game unbeaten streak. And really a period of defensive dominance for the Billikens.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely came down to earth in this one. Pete, run us down the standings right now. The Billikens, of course, dropped this one and drop one game in the standings.
Yeah, so that's the last. SLU was the last unbeaten team in the conference, and this drops them into second place because Davidson is 5-1, and SLU is in second, 4-1-1. Loyola and VCU right behind SLU at 3-1-2, and then you've got Fordham, UMass, and Duquesne all at 3-2-1. Dayton 2-1-3. Bonaventure and George Mason are 2-3-1. You've got LaSalle 4 from the bottom at 1-3-2. Rhode Island and St. Joe's are both 1-4-1, and then George Washington is winless at 0-5-1.
Next Saturday, or next up will be Saturday the 21st versus Dayton. That'll be alumni weekend. That'll be the day after the men's basketball open practice. It'll be good to see some of the alumni out for that one. Women's soccer, Pete, run us down the rankings.
Yeah, and I think these are going to move in the right direction after this week, Zach. But
I should say so.
Yeah, I hope so. The RPI was 28 heading into this week. It was 26 the week before. Coaches poll also went down 2 spots from 24 to 26. Top Drawer Soccer, though, had them up to 14 from 19 last week. And then College Soccer News, they've been stuck at 23 for like 3-4 weeks now. So kind of interesting that the rankings are not, they haven't really settled on what to do with this team quite yet, but I think they made kind of a statement this week, Zach.
Yeah, they really did. 11 goals in 2 games, Peter.
Yeah.
Starting with a 6-0 win versus UMass on Thursday the 12th. By the way, before we get into this one, I really need to throw a shout out to whoever was cleaning the student that was cleaning Herman Stadium on Friday after this one. I, being the idiot that I am, left my AirPods sitting right where I was sitting on the bleachers right next to me when I left, and woke up the next day and they were still there. By the way, shout out SLU students in general for just leaving them. But they started moving midday on Friday, and I drove down there on a whim just to see if I could snag them, and turns out it was just one of the dudes cleaning up, had him in his pocket. Unbelievable.
Nice.
Yeah.
Feel good stories. SLU students
Absolutely.
are nice kids.
Oh, they're great. If anybody that listens to this that's in facility management and can like point out who that kid was, send us a DM. Amazing. 24th minute, Emily Grork with an excellent header off a ball from Caroline Kelly. Gaby got an assist on that play. This just kicked off a game of just absolute domination.
It did. It's one of those things where it kind of took them a while to get going, right? So basically the first quarter of this game, you could tell SLU was the better team, outplaying them, outclassing them, but like just couldn't get one in. And once they did, you're right. It was open season. 27th minute, 3 minutes later, Hannah Larson got a really good long pass from Gaby, and then she turned on the jet. Zach absolutely beat the UMass defender and finished pretty solidly from the left side. 6 minutes later, 33rd, Gaby herself, speaking of turning on the jets, smoked the same defender. Juliana Ryan, we are sorry to call you out, but
Island.
I saw number 11 on UMass, and I was like, she is just out of her depth against these two. So yeah, Gaby made it 3-0 with that. Julia Simon got the assist on that one. And Zach, they were not done. They kept it going in the second half, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think there was maybe 6 or 7 times in this game where I said, "Oh, don't do her like that." Like it was ridiculous. Like they were playing with the like confidence of the Globetrotters playing the Generals. Like they were just like I've never seen the flash and the flare from this team the way I did Thursday night. Caroline Kelly in the 47th minute had a crafty little volley off a head ball from Abby Miller that came from a Izzy Lubert corner. 57th minute, Gaby again put a defender on Gaby Island.
He sure did.
More of a half-speed trot in traffic and just tucked the shot away. This was a lot like that goal. I'm trying to remember the goal. Or it was the first goal of the last game, the previous game, where it kind of came out of nowhere, just a little bit of individual brilliance It's nice to see some finesse from her. She's very much a downhill,
Yeah.
overpowering attacker, and showing off some. And she is skillful. Like she will run at you and run through traffic, with the ball, but you don't see kind of a finesse goal like this as much out of her.
No, and you saw that in the defense too, right? Like they clearly had scouted her. Like they had like a triangle around her that was kind of moving with her a little bit, but none of
Wait,
them
are you
would.
telling me that Gaby Island is in the Bermuda Triangle?
I'm absolutely, yeah. You could
Holy
draw it on a
shit.
map in this one, and she like they all kind of moved with her, but nobody would really bite, like make a move toward the ball. And once one of them kind of hinted that she would, Gaby just was like, okay, I'll take it now, took the shot, and that was it. But it was so funny, like they're like they were all ready for her to like try and blow by them, right?
And
Like
then she did,
and then she took the shot away. Really good assist too, by the way, to get Grower got it to her.
90th minute, Pete. They weren't done. I honestly was like, I think I turned it off or like walked away. I think I was done watching.
No, I watched this one to the end.
I just assumed it was over.
It kind of okay. So this was a weird one. So Slew wound up with a corner with it was like over 10 seconds to play, and Nina Preußer played it in. A UMass defender headed it, and it went way up in the air. Really unfortunate. Arced kind of back and came down right on the goal line. And Jordan Gary and Macy Lutz were waiting right there. They had crowded in. Lutz had the final touch. It went off of her somewhere. It was hard to say where. UMass, they all wanted a handball, like because it kind of looked like it may have gone off her arm. We had two angles of it on the replay. Well, we had the game angle, and then there was another replay angle that was kind of behind the goal line, and you really couldn't tell from either of those. But they called it a goal. Like they UMass, they were working the refs for this one, and I genuinely kind of felt bad for them. But at the same time, it was Macy Lutz's first goal as a Billiken. So like I felt she was clearly very excited. So that was cool too.
I got to find out how many Billikens now that have scored this season, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really become a team effort. And this is
crazy.
The last few games are not necessarily games where you would have necessarily, or you wouldn't have probably expected the freshmen to come in for such a long stretch of time like they did the last 20 minutes or so. So just, I don't know, just really impressive what this team is doing right now. To answer your question, Zach, how many different ones have scored? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It looks like 17.
Yes.
If I've got that right.
There are, hold on. There are, I'm trying to come up with a way to say this stat right now. I'm trying to look for minutes, right? So Izzy Lubert has played 715 minutes and has not scored. Eva Schreiber has played 576 minutes, has not scored. Caitlin Brinkman has played 243 minutes and has not scored. Ellie Pawlusek has played 151 minutes and has not scored. I mean, there aren't any players that are just going through this rotation and not scoring.
Right.
Like I'm gonna cap the rotation, say at Macy Lutz. Let's say we'll cap it at 300 minutes. Okay. 300 minutes. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 players have not scored that have played 300 minutes this season.
Right.
And one of those players is Emily Percelli. And if we do not get her a goal this season, I'm going to be pissed.
If she gets a wind game like we had at Loyola, you never know. You never know. But you also have Samantha DeLuca, right? 76 minutes, 2 goals. You've got Macy Lutz and Jordan Gary, both right under 300 minutes, and they've scored. So everybody is feasting on this team this season.
It's absolutely impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy. This team's just got so many weapons. It's out of control. 5-0 win at Rhode Island. I have no idea.
Well, wait a minute, Zach. Wait, like, okay, so just quickly.
Oh, I messed up.
shots were 24-5 in
That's my
SLU's
point.
favor. UMass didn't get a shot off until about 15 minutes into the second half. And the last 4 shots came after SLU had subbed off Emily Percelli and a number of other starters. Shots on goal 14-2, corners 9-1. Fouls, SLU won that battle as well, 18-14. And this was actually a career night for Emily Gaby. 2 goals, 2 assists. And I want to point out those assists because she's really developed as a facilitator. We talk about Gaby Island being a downhill player, but also flashing that skill on the ball. But like, she's really been a good passer.
We kind of called her out too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
you're right.
Fairly, but
yeah.
She's done unbelievably to prove us wrong, and I love that.
For sure. We want, every time we criticize an athlete, we want that to happen. So she's developed as a finisher, developed as a facilitator. She's been incredible. But I also want to highlight, this was not an expected outcome, right? Like both of these teams came in to this game still with a chance for first place. UMass doesn't have that anymore. But this is not just a matter of like SLU beating up on a bottom third kind of team. UMass had allowed 4 goals in its previous 9 games and 9 total goals all season. Right. So after this game, SLU was responsible for 40% of the goals against this team. That's pretty incredible. I mean, you saw the UMass keeper bounced up, super frustrated, yelling at her defender after the first goal, and it just got worse from there.
Yeah.
It was incredible to watch. So I wanted to put that in context. And now, yes, they were not.
Yeah,
done.
no, sorry. It was ridiculous. 5-0 win at Rhode Island on Sunday the 15th. And outside of the stats, I have no idea what happened in this one.
No highlights, no stream. And this is the second time
when we say no highlights, let's make sure we're saying that we have no issue with SLU on this one.
No. And I was just getting to that. This is the second time in 2 seasons SLU has played a soccer game at Rhode Island. It was the men last year. We did not have a stream. What are they doing up in Kingston? Like the A10 has ESPN Plus. You have a budget, right? Like you're supposed to be streaming as much as you can. And I don't know what the rules are, like how many things they have to put up, but like don't put up the minimum. To not do a soccer game is pretty wild to me. You know, if you've got a field hockey team that plays 25 miles from campus, that's one thing. You're not going to get all those. It's fine. But like, I don't know, Zach, soccer, I just was not.
It's easy. It's not like, it's not field hockey. It's not off campus. It's not tennis. It's not track and field. It's not cross country. Like, again, track and field's easier to broadcast than cross country. It's on par with soccer probably, but like, it's not, it's not golf.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And I'm looking at a map right now. The University of Rhode Island soccer absolutely plays on campus. All of their athletics is kind of in the same spot over on the west side of campus. So no excuse there. We know Rhode Island has football, but they played on Saturday.
And they streamed that.
Yeah, not Sunday. And I don't think the A10's ESPN Plus deal should have anything to do with that. And honestly, if I found out that like Rhode Island was using the resources from that to give football more streaming resources, that would be upsetting, because that's not an A10 sport.
Let's see, on demand, Rhode Island, they broadcast women's volleyball. Is the last thing they broadcast, and I don't remember when that was. Okay. Or I don't know when that was, honestly. Let's see. Rhode Island volleyball. Bad radio. Oh, they're good Lord. They're 3-18, 0-9. Oh, they're horrible. Yeah. So my guess is they probably streamed volleyball over soccer, or maybe it was about the pink night, getting fans into the stadium. I don't know.
Ugh. Regardless, like, get it together, Rhode Island. Like it's a big school. You've got all your athletic facilities right there. Like, get it together.
No joke. That again, if SLU has been reactive in a lot of things that they do, They have been outstanding in broadcast.
Yeah.
For being a school without a broadcast like department,
Yeah.
without a journalism school, SLU has been very, very good at putting out, streaming content. And I think I don't, again, I want to give credit to SLU there, but I think there's a lot to be said about the fan base too. I mean, you look back and we're a fan base that was always illegal stream. We were
Oh yeah.
always. I think
Yeah.
having the message board has really, like, it's still probably the best message board in college athletics. I think
It's well, I mean, a lot of
as
yeah,
far
and
as
I don't know
the
what
way it's
that's
run, the level of
yeah.
usage it gets, the traffic.
They certainly still exist for other schools, and a lot of the bigger schools have them behind a paywall. Like they're really good ones are behind a paywall, and then just a lot of all of that fan activity in general has shifted to social media
Like
platforms more,
subreddits.
with either Reddit or even Facebook in some cases, and Twitter. Oh
Can
god,
you
I don't
imagine Billikens.com running on Facebook as a Facebook
nightmare,
group?
nightmare.
Holy shit.
I've seen other things over time move from more traditional forums to Facebook, and I just like it's like enough to make you quit a hobby. It's horrible. So it's just like you're right, and we're lucky to have it, and I don't miss the age of like having to pirate streams out of Russia to see SLU play
Imagine,
basketball.
imagine, Victor in Novosibirsk in freaking Tomsk, Russia,
Yeah.
like streaming a St. Louis University basketball game. Like, that is ridiculous, but it happened. It existed.
Yeah, I don't miss those days. I don't miss
Um,
those days, but apparently Rhode Island still mired in that. But
yeah,
let's run down the stats on this
yeah.
one.
Just real quick, 10th minute. Uh, would it surprise you if I said Emily Gaby scored, assisted by Emily Gork?
No, nothing surprising about that right there.
34th minute, Alyssa Bacchius, assisted by Izzy Lubert on a cross into the box. Her first goal as a Billiken. Caroline Kelly in the 60th minute, assisted by Hannah Larson and Sophia Stram. Larson had the corner kick. Stram headed over, and Kelly finished. 66th minute, Abby Miller, assisted by Katie Hauk. Women's soccer Twitter account called it a stunning ball from Hauk. Wish we could have seen it. Thanks
Yep.
for nothing, in my thickest Irish accent from Caddyshack. 85th minute, Hannah Sawyer, assisted by Emily Grork. Percelli played 80 minutes of the shutout, and Becca Wolterman took over for the last 10. That's got to be stressful for Becca.
Well, especially because they're subbing off a lot of the other high rotation players and starters too, right? So she winds up facing in these last couple games as many or more shots than Percelli did. And to her credit, she's maintained the shutouts. So good for her.
Shots 35 to 5 SLU, 16 to 12, 16 to 2 SLU, 8 to 1 on corners. Fouls were even at 6 to 6. Rhode Island still technically top half team after this loss. So again, not picking on the bottom of the table here, Pete.
No, not at all. SLU hangs on to first place with this win, 7-0-1. LaSalle remains right on their heels, though, Zach, at 7-1. Dayton still technically undefeated as well, 6-0-3. St. Joseph's 4-1-3. UMass 4-2-2. Duquesne 3-1-4. Got the St. Louis area code record there. Rhode Island 3-2-3. Loyola's 3-3-2. VCU's 3-4-1. Fordham 2-3-3. Bonaventure's 2-4-2. A lot of ties this year, by the way. Mason is 2-7. They picked up another win somehow. Richmond's 1-6-1. Davidson 0-6-2. George Washington still winless at 0-7-1. The bottom four in this league, Zach, is just dreadful.
They are very bad. That's
But
eight wins.
That's not who SLU's been playing, by the way.
No, 8 wins total among the bottom 4.
Yeah. No, wait.
No.
You mean among the
No,
bottom
sorry.
half?
No. Sorry, I was thinking of. Oh, never mind. I did bad math. 11 wins total overall among the last 4 teams in the league.
No, still wrong.
No, that's right. Look at their overall record, homeboy.
overall. Sorry. I'm looking at the conference record.
God, son of all right.
All right, moving on.
Next up, Thursday the 19th at home versus Duquesne. Then they head on the road to Philly for Sunday the 22nd at St. Joe's. Pete, volleyball this weekend. Free ticket giveaway for these matches emailed out with a link to claim them. Pretty standard practice, I think. Again, we talked about it last week. I'd really like to see roll these in as if you're going to do this, just get it out ahead of time, roll it into the men's basketball tickets.
Yeah.
Give, A10 matches, one match a weekend. I would say maybe give away the Saturday match,
Sure.
the day game matches. But Friday was packed. The gym was real crowded for that one.
Yeah, it looked like a good crowd on Saturday too, but I think Friday definitely had the edge.
3-2 win versus Fordham on Friday the 13th. And this match, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary on Friday the 13th. You were wondering about the luck on this one because it started. Billikens took a quick 2-0 lead in this match, 25-18, 25-17, only to turn around and drop the next two, 19-25, 22-25. And like I said, Friday the 13th, weird things happen. But the Billikens pulled it out 18-16 in that third set. Man, dude. 12 service aces was the most this season. 5 service errors, tied for the least this season. 4 reception errors is the second least after the Mississippi Valley State match. This was their highest attack percentage in conference play with 385, and most assists of the season was 66. And that was with the emergence of Addie Lyon at setter. Delaney Rice had 23 kills. Talk about emergence. She continues to be on a tear.
Yeah.
Jillian Mattingly had 7 blocks. Addie Lyon had 61 assists, by far her career high. Between here and Missouri, she now has 700 in her career. 61 is also a season high in the A10, and it's the most by a Billiken since Kennedy Cordia with 62 in 2018. Carly Rogers had 21 digs. She's been pretty good since I was kind of critical of her service reception and digs early on in the A10. Overall stats were close in this one. Only category was aces. The Billikens won that battle 12-4. Rogers with 4. Unbelievable server Carly Rogers is.
Yeah, she really is. I haven't been able to watch much volleyball this season, but I did this one. These games this weekend, and it was funny because her specifically, she stood out to me. Maybe I wonder her a little bit more closely because
she's wearing a damn gray jersey. She's wearing a different color jersey, maybe.
Good point. But no, I remember you being critical a couple weeks ago, and then I was like, she looks pretty. Like as much as you say like you're the knucklehead, and I have more of the mind for basketball. Which I, by the way, disagree with, but volleyball is completely the reverse dynamic. Like I don't know what I'm talking about at all, and you really know volleyball, X's and O's and everything, and just to the the more casual fan's eye, Rogers I thought looked great against Fordham this weekend.
And to your point, I don't know X's and O's that well. I understand the game. I understand the game. I understand the game of most sports, and I understand the athletic, like how it's done athletically, but I don't have that X's and O's strategy locked in that far for volleyball. But I understand, like we were talking about it, because the camera, first of all, SLU, invest in a scissor lift, please, for the practice gym. It's so I can't even blame the camera operator because that's such a tight angle at half court.
It is.
Also, you get a lot of heads at the end of game, at the end of sets, people standing. It's tough. But we talked about it, and I talked about how much I really enjoy watching the high angle from up above, and I think it's literally just a camera on the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it really like if you look up there, there's a camera up on the wall. I think it's like just stationary. But you can see, especially on the serve, you can see the movement on it. So a lot of times I'll whine and complain about service reception until I watch that angle and I'm like, okay, that thing dropped.
Yeah.
But it's incredible to watch. I beg of the producer to show more of that angle when Rogers is serving because you will see exactly the trickery that she puts on that ball.
Yeah, she really does.
3-2 win Saturday the 14th. Pete, I felt like that, like I think I tweeted out, but I felt like that gif of Tim Allen and the Santa Claus just completely going gray all at once watching
In
this.
seconds.
Yeah, I'm extremely lucky. I have short blonde hair. You
Yeah.
cannot see the grays that I'm getting from these volleyball matches. It's a brand new experience to me because, of course, I feel a personal connection to Kevin Kalish, Katie Shields, these people that have been gracious enough to come on our show.
Yeah.
But I've only one of them, well, now two that I've been acquainted with prior to SLU is Kevin Stoll with soccer and Cal McKee with women's soccer. But having a friend who's also the head coach, and it's your team,
Yeah.
like I don't know if I can handle this. Like emotionally, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of emotional investment.
Yeah, for sure. I get that. And this is where I throw out a little reminder to people who are still listening. Watch more volleyball. This sport, it's one of those things like I cannot take my eyes away from it whenever I've got a match on. Like I can't just have it on in the background while I'm working on other stuff because I'm watching the whole time. It's such a fast-paced game, the way the scoring works. It's like I don't know. It's a great TV. It's the most underrated TV sport by far.
Yes, I will say that I don't necessarily like when we're talking about indoor women's sports. I really don't understand the amount of money that's put into women's basketball. We're talking professional, right? That's put into women's basketball as opposed to women's volleyball. Because women's volleyball is, in my opinion, the more translative. It translates
Translatable.
better. Yeah, translatable sport as
Yeah.
it compares to I think women's volleyball is much more entertaining than men's volleyball. I've said this because
I
there's
agree.
the rallying. The men's is bump set spike game, like bump set kill. It's just over and over. There's not as much defense in the
Sure.
men's game.
Yeah.
But I've always said that even above like women's soccer, I think women's volleyball is a much more friendly entry into the women's sports world. And I think would benefit great. I think it would do if you put a lot of money behind it. I think it would do well. It does well in Europe. It does crazy well in Europe.
I don't think it would even involve a huge financial investment. Just get it on more screens. Once you start watching this, and I think it's happened with softball. I think has really taken off with bigger and bigger crowds, especially with the softball programs that have your Oklahomas and some of the southern programs.
That's another
really
one I don't understand MLB put some money into.
I'm telling you,
softball.
Yeah.
Why not?
TV when the women's tournament is on in the spring, it is essential TV. It is great.
I enjoy it more than the baseball just because it's hour and a half, 2 hours done.
Yeah.
Done. Fast mate. Let's move.
Smaller field, faster pay. The timing of it, it's like fun. It's more fun. But volleyball, to circle back, I wonder
get done with this episode.
If this is the year that kind of turns a corner, right? Because the big Nebraska thing that happened a few weeks ago, earlier this season with them selling out the football stadium, I think more and more people are at least taking a little glance at it and seeing what it is. And the thing, Zach, is volleyball. You talk about the men's game versus the women's. There are just way more women's teams. So you're a lot of schools, or you're not going to have a men's team, unless you're West
Loyola.
Coast team or right. So there are some out there, but the women's game is a lot more pervasive around the country. And so if you've got already an institutional rooting interest, go check out volleyball. Like it's a blast to watch. And every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't know why I don't make it a point to watch every single match because it's a blast. But anyway, back to this game or this match, Zach.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't roll my eyes heavily as the Billikens once again threw away a 2-set lead.
Yeah.
Emily Hankin, 19 kills. Addie Lyon, 51 assists. Carly Rogers, 25 digs. Mattingly, 7 blocks. 13 blocks in this one ties a season high, something that I think the Billikens really need to get going forward here is their block game. It's not been very good the entire season. 73 digs was the second most on the season. They had 14 service errors in this one. And this was the most swings on the season, the most attacks, attack attempts. I really, really like what we saw from Addie Lyon this season. I already mentioned it a little bit. She's obviously still working her way back from that medical situation we talked about earlier in the year. But I thought the swing quality was just a lot better from the hitters with her at the setter position. You really enjoyed watching Josie Newcomb play in this one.
Yeah, again, to the untrained eye, she immediately stood out to me. As she, like I was just because she's a freshman, right? And I think I texted you like, man, what a get she is. Like she's gonna be great. Really liked what she brought here, a lot of energy. And I think like watching her play, watching Luckett play, like you can just see like there's another level of raw talent with them. And to see that develop over the next few years, they could really be special, this freshman class. You're on mute, Zach. I don't know how that happened or when.
I threw it up there. Sometimes when I try to take a drink. Really, yeah, looking at the standings, I mean, this conference is tough this year. It really is. Dayton 9-0. VCU 8-1, Loyola Chicago 7-2. Loyola Chicago really could be 8-1, and Dayton could be 9-1. Honestly, Davidson 4-5, Duquesne 4-5, St. Louis 4-5, George Washington 4-5 as well. Fordham 3-6, George Mason 2-7, Rhode Island, like we mentioned earlier, 0-9. Yeah. Next up. It's going to be a gauntlet Friday and Saturday. Dayton, nationally ranked Dayton, I believe. Still,
yeah, they're really good. They've won 15 in a row.
Yeah, they were the thorn in our side when I was the manager. They were the one team. Like even when we were at those were epic battles.
Yeah,
I think it was like Dayton, SLU, Xavier, and I think Temple. Like that was a damn good volleyball conference.
Yeah.
Late aughts. Pete, run us down the field hockey, both games real quick.
Yeah, so Friday the 13th at Sportport, 6-1 loss to LaSalle. It was actually tied 1-1 after the first quarter with Sierra Larson scoring on a rebound off an Ava Kalma shot. But then LaSalle scored in the second to make it 2-1 at half. Still a close game, manageable game, and then things blew open in the third. LaSalle scored 4 more. Tatum Johnson on LaSalle had a hat trick in the span of 7 minutes. They outshot SLU 19-4 in this one and 11-2 in shots on goal. They had all 5 penalty corners in the game as well. But luckily on Sunday the 15th at Sportport, SLU bounced back with a 4-0 win over Maryville, who they did beat, I think, 5-0 in the preseason. SLU was up only 1-0 at halftime after a first quarter goal by Brooke Mason on an assist by Grace Golombiewski. Sorry. Are we saying that right though, Zach? I gotta make sure I'm pronouncing these field hockey names right. She's got a tough last name.
I think that Biewski.
I hope there's not like a Shashevsky thing. Okay.
It could be Golombiewski. I think I did go to school with like a person who it was like a Bieski. I won't say their full last name, but
okay.
That was how we said the end of it.
Well, nonetheless, it was Brooke Mason's third goal of the season. Ava Blyer picked up her first career goal in the third quarter. This one was off an assist from Olivia Smith. And then Vitas scored on a rebound off a Brooke Mason shot. Mason got the assist for that. Demi Saoleka got the 4th goal, the game's final goal on a penalty stroke. And Kendall Underwood had the shutout with 4 saves. SLU outshot Maryville 21-4. All 4 Maryville shots were on goal. 13 of SLU's 21 shots were on goal. And penalty corners, SLU had 8 to Maryville's 3. Next up, Friday the 20th, they will have Lock Haven at Sportport. Lock Haven, usually one of the winnable games in the A10 for field hockey.
Cross country, Bradley Pink Classic on October 13th at Peoria, Illinois. Men 8th of 29 overall. Harrison Martinenko led the way with an AKPR 24:37. Furl Ahmed 24:39 running on that. Moy Coffee. Spencer Werner 24:50. Patrick Donovan 25:13. And Lucas Ivanovsky. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
25:31 to round out the top 5. Women were 14th out of 32. Sophia Pellegrin 21:37. McKenna Paulson 21:41. Carly Sear 21:56, which is her 6K PR. Star Scott 23:14 and Jordan Cantola 23:16 to round out the top 5 Billikens. They'll head to the A10 championships on Saturday the 28th at Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, and then we'll end with swimming and diving. We had the McKendree Drury double duel at McKendree on the 13th and 14th.
Say that 5 times fast.
Oh man. But unfortunately, both the men and women went 0-2 against McKendree and Drury, where no SLU swimmer had a top finish. Megan Eng did have 3 top 5 finishes for the women, and Jedrick Camilla had 2 top 5 finishes for the men. Couple bright spots there. And then next up, Friday the 20th, they'll be at Wash U, Zach, where they will take on former head coach Jim Halliburton, who's an assistant for the Bears.
That'll be one to keep an eye on.
Storylines, drama.
Absolutely. That's going to do it. Another big time episode for us, around hour and a half, a little, maybe 10 minutes up, maybe an hour 20. But we're getting back into the swing of basketball, and hopefully we get a little more out of the women's basketball team as far as news goes, Pete.
Yeah, for sure. Quiet week for them, but you know, we're in the home stretch now before the season starts, and I'm sure we'll be hearing some more.
Well, that'll do it for us and the week in Billiken athletics. Thank you all so much for listening. Pete, as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.